You're typically going to find along the edge of the woods, somewhere along the edge of the woods, you're typically going to find some kind of a trail that's going to go back into the woods where the animals are all going to be using it. I don't care if it's a rabbit, a squirrel, a raccoon, possum, they're all going to be using a trail. A lot of times they're deer trails, like Byron said, you know. What we would normally do on this one is we would put a snare out here on the edge, and then we would put another one back just a little bit further by that tree where there's just a little bit of a pinch point where you can funnel them together. I think for today we'll just, instead of putting one out here and trying to rig something over it to keep a deer out of, we'll put it alongside that tree, put the stake on the far side of the tree. I pulled my rotator cuff in my shoulder. I can't really pound very good, so Melissa's going to do she'll do this. She set more snares last winter than I did anyway. So she's slipping the snare with the swivel onto the stake first, and then putting the support wire on there, which you can call it a pigtail or not. It just looks like a curly tail on a pig, so that's why we call them that.
Now, if you don't have a tree, this would be a good spot also,
right, because
it's going to hide your snare.
Pardon? Sorry.
You know, anytime you have a narrow spot like that, that's a good place to set a snare, because the less they can see it, the more likely they're going to be to walk right through it.
Put that stake away from the tree on the other side of the trail.
But you said on the far side of the tree, not the far side of the trail.
Far side of the trail. And the reason that I do that, the reason I would put it over here is that your support collar is also going to be a place where you can put a weed or something up against. And it's easier to drive the stake out here away from the roots of that tree. I don't know if you noticed my hammer or not, but the orange paint is pretty well wore off my hammer. It needs to be repainted. Well, I think we tried to lose it twice last year unsuccessfully. We went back and got it, but paint your stuff orange and it'll pay off in the long run. You'll lose a lot less equipment that way.
Beaver set. You got to think about where to set the height for what animal you're targeting. Coyote's going to have his head up here. If you're going after a beaver, he's going to walk right underneath it.
What size cable do you use, and do you make your own snares?
This is a 7/32, and
Yes,
that's
here we go.
typically what we use for coyote. You can use a little bit lighter weight for raccoon, but I just use the same thing for all of them.
What about your swivels?
Now see, if I had my wire, I would wire that.
Yeah.
I would wire that.
You could probably turn it end for end and put this fork against the tree.
Like this.
Or you can do it that way. All right, and the coyote's going to walk right through there. And the deer will jump over top of it. And like I said, yeah, go ahead.
You said it has to be less than 15 inches around?
If it's more than 15 inches or more in circumference, you have to have written permission on the property to set it.
Okay, that's the only thing.
But you can have a snare as big as you want it as long as you got written permission on the property. If you see a trail that looks like a deer trail, you know that you're going to put jump sticks on there. But a lot of trails just through the grass, around a marshy area, up a bank and stuff, you don't really have to worry about putting a jump stick on. But please put deer stops on your snare, so that if a deer does get his foot caught in it and he takes your snare away, he'll get it off of his foot. If we're going after coon, and a circle about 8 inches. The coyote one, I've got a fairly good sized hand, so the loop will go around my hand. And like I said, it's about 15 inches.
When I started coyote snaring a little bit, you know, I went with a 10-inch loop with the bottom of the loop 10 inches off the ground. And what I did was take a paint stern stick and I marked 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 inches on it. I carried that with me and I could, you know, well, there's 10 inches and hold it up to the loop, yeah, that's 10 inches. And after you do that a couple dozen times, you kind of develop, you kind of get away from using your stick, but that's a great, easy, lightweight thing to carry with you. You kind of check what you're doing. Search out more area, but you can just, you got this trail here, you can carry some number 9 wire, or I've just used this wire, and I'm going to bend the crap out of it.
Yeah, put it right around that tree.
But they make, you can buy snares that this end, it has a cable stop on it, and then it's got a double ferrule, so you can make it a slip loop. You can make that big. You go around the tree, poke it back through there, draw it up tight, so now you're using your tree as your anchor. And then you can take baling wire or a piece of number 9 wire and just use your tree and then hang your cable snares already hooked to your tree, and then you can get it out here like this, and then you're doing it all without a stake and a hammer. You can use baling wire and double a piece of baling wire. You just carry a roll of wire and a pair of pliers with you instead of a bunch of stakes and a hammer. But you've got to have a different end on your...
Right, and typically...
So as long as this snare is under 15 inches, you don't need to have your relaxing snare lock, okay? Once it snare is 15 inches, or if you can run a snare bigger than 15 inches, as long as you have your relaxing snare lock on, okay? Or it's half submerged in water, okay? So if it's not half submerged in water, or you don't have a snare lock, then you're stuck to the 15 inches or smaller on the circumference, okay? Then also while we're talking about snares, and I cover it again tomorrow when we talk about laws, but anytime you trap with a snare, you have to have written permission from the landowner, unless you're on your own property. So those are pretty much the 2 things to remember about snares, is the 15 inches, am I bigger or smaller, and do I have written permission? And so, but if we're going bigger, then make sure you have the relaxing snare lock like this.
Another thing you can do, just like if you've got a deer stop here, so it doesn't close all the way, if you're building your own snares, you can put a deer stop out here so you stop at 14.5 inches.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's built in.
So
that's a great idea.
You could do
Yes,
circumference, yes.
So keep that in mind. You're not going diameter across the loop or anything like that. That's circumference.
But actually, if you measure out 15 inches of circumference,
You're talking just less than 5
you're
inches
not talking
diameter.
a very big hole.
No.
That's a pretty,
Just less.
15 inches circumference, pretty small.
Yeah, 15-inch circumference is a pretty small hole.
It's about it's 5 inches.
But I know
Good
you
enough
can,
for a coon, but not big enough for a coyote.
Right.
I know you can buy snares that have that to stay within that 15-inch deal. Just as you just put it in a different place instead of using it. You can use it at deer stop and out here.
Now the ones that I make, I slip a nut on here for a deer stop and then crunch it with my power press, okay? But there are ones that are made to just clip on to the wire, and you use a vice grips pliers and
They look
crunch
like a
it
bow
on.
knock.
Yeah, you just pinch it on there.
You can use eye guards.
We do a lot of
creates that
funneling,
funnel for
yeah,
them
a lot of funneling.
for that ambush to happen.
You can take a.
We should leave that here overnight. We're coming back tomorrow.
And you got your freezing rain protection up here.
You might want another little bitty stick.
Earlier, he pinched me.
You like to have them right at the bottom so they're not tempted to go underneath. Like this.
Kind of, like you said, just create that path.
And if